final opportunity to enter pots and brackets. Once you throw them off the score, you will not be allowed to enter. You do so with money myself at the table behind me, control this. Once again, when practice is over, so will your opportunity to enter.
I was glad to hear that a lot of the guys I thought might be here aren't quite at that age yet, because it means I'm not quite that old yet. We're, we all in the bowling community talked about inside the last 10 years that when the names like Amaletto, Walter Ray, Norm Duke, Brian Voss, when they all hit that 50 range, that the PBA Senior Tour, the PBA 50 Tour was going to get incredibly competitive. And I'm sure we're not too far away from those guys hitting the super senior level and turning this into what would have been a PBA telecast 25 years ago.
Yeah, the talent level continues to grow, and it, along with the size of the event, being able to make our way out here to Las Vegas, team up with these senior masters, definitely has allowed a lot of players to essentially take the opportunity to basically pair up, make a long vacation out of it. From what I've heard, Vegas is a fun town. I mean, you live here now, or for at least the next few months.
Yeah.
So you've probably had a little bit of fun in Vegas over that time. So I know for a lot of folks, it's for a lot of these gentlemen, they're bringing their significant others with them, and experiencing the town. They're only on the lanes for essentially today. These guys will be done around noon or 1 o'clock, and then they have the rest of the trip to go. So
really, they've got from that point, they have a whole 24 hours before they come back on the burn tomorrow. So and I talked to a lot of guys that are from my generation that came out and bowled the USBC Masters about a month ago, and they did the same thing. Not all of them, obviously, but a number of them came out, and they got here maybe a week before the Masters started. They bowled the Open Championships. They hit up a couple squads at the Bowler's Journal, maybe went to the 40 frame and a couple other events in the area, and then they bowled the Masters, or vice versa. They bowled the Masters and then stayed for the Open Championships. So when you can pair two big events like that are in one city and make maybe a small vacation out of it, it can be an enjoyable time, even if the bowling doesn't go the way you might have hoped.
All right, we are transitioning to Game 2. So this is Aaron Smith with USBC Communications, joined by former Junior Team USA member and current Open Championships media relations personnel, Daniel Farish, here at the Samstown Bowling Center in Las Vegas, Nevada. Game 2 now underway. Definitely one of the cool aspects of this event is getting to see names from different eras, of course, coming out. Obviously, all competitors at least 60 years of age to start this event out. So we get to see next on 19 and 20, one of our past Senior Masters champions, Vince Mazzanti Jr. will be joining us on 19 and 20. Looks like we're starting up in a moment over here. Paul Appling and Alan Sabin over on 21 and 22 already underway, along with Rich Cook and Carl Chavez.
Well, that's what's cool about coming out and working this tournament itself, is that there are a lot of guys out here today who were the PBA Tour members for the generation ahead of me. So a lot of guys that are maybe 5-10 years older than me, we're watching some of these guys on TV and following these guys at Pro-Ams and stuff like that. And a lot of these names, I couldn't recollect if you ask me to, but when I see it on the screen, I'm like, oh, I know that guy. I know that name. So it's neat. I've always heard the name Ron Moore, but I've never seen him bowl. I've heard the name Mike Warren. I've heard the name Mike Diaz, but I've never seen these guys in person because they were just a step ahead of my TV viewing and bowling watching generation. So it's really neat to come out here and see these guys not just competing at this age, but throwing the ball really well. These guys are here for a reason.
Definitely no lack of talent in this field.
No.
But you talk about Ron Moore, and Ron's, we say this about a lot of folks because it's very true, but Ron Moore is one of the best individuals in the sport of bowling. I will say that without blinking an eye, that Ron is just amazing for the sport, does so much for the sport, on top of being such a fantastic competitor. But to hear Ron's story, and he's always been very cool and obviously always a great competitor here at this event. Was a runner-up in 2016 before winning the title in 2017. But for Ron, just an amazing training regimen for him. He is just incredibly dedicated to his workout, to his plan. I remember a few years ago after we talked to him, after I believe he won this event, he said he took it easy that morning and only did like 500 push-ups before coming out to bowl. So it might have been sit-ups now that I think about it.
Either way.
But but Ron is just takes amazing care of himself to be this competitive. And as a two-time PBA 50 Player of the Year, sometimes as you mentioned, all those guys, the Parker Bones, the Walter Raids, the Brian Vosses, Pete Webbers, Norm Dukes hit that age and start to join these ranks. Father Time is undefeated, as most folks know, and it's going to catch up to you at some point. But Ron is still incredibly competitive, and just isn't out there cashing every week. He's out there, putting himself in position to make stepladder finals on the PBA 50 as well. And the cool thing about Ron is, he was very dedicated to his work prior to, so he was never out on the actual, the young kids tour, because he, was part of the U.S. military and, bowled the Open Championships, bowled events where he could, but elected not to become a professional until he basically kind of stepped away from that, turned 50, and folks in the know knew who he was, but he really didn't become a household name until that era, and obviously now has become one of the top senior players we've ever seen.
Well, and you talk about workout regimen. When I think of a senior-aged, I guess, competitor in any sport, and you talk about working out and staying healthy, the one name that always comes to mind, me being a NASCAR fan, is Mark Martin. And it was throughout the NASCAR circles very well known that as he got into his late 40s and early 50s, he really picked up how often he worked out. He watched his diet, he watched his health, and when you saw him in the garage area, he didn't have the physique of a 54-year-old man. And I think that even as I get older, I'll be 33 in July, I'm noticing that I've got to watch things with my health now that I didn't 10 years ago. So I'm sure in 20 years I'll be doing the same thing. And a dedication to your health, no matter your age, will pay dividends on the competitive side, whatever arena you're competing in, whether it's a racetrack, a bowling center, a golf course, what have you.
33, my goodness. You're getting up there.
Still not as old as Matt.
That's true.
And I remind him every day.
Take that, Canizaro. And Emil. We both got Emil as well.
Yes, we do.
Only by a few months. Let's see, who else we got here on 1920? We got Jay Young. Going to be stepping up with an early double. As well as Ku Tran. Starting off with a spare and a strike. So as we can see up there, some decent starts. Jay Young with 204. The totals will be cumulative if you're kind of following up on the scoreboards. So as folks have pinfall kind of start to roll in, as we can see for a few of our guys on 21 and 22. So for Alan Saban, for instance, he didn't shoot 283 in game 1, but subtract the 48 he has up there. That's one way of getting the last game score up there, at least for now, but that's kind of how that works for folks following along there. So we'll see the cumulative totals grow bigger and bigger throughout the course of the day, but you can also find game-by-game standings available at bowl.com/Super Senior. Once again, if you're following along in the chat, you can see the panels up at the top. You click on that middle one and click on tournament information right there. Just click on the big old letters right there. And it'll take you right to our main page on bowl.com. Qualifying round 1 is going to be the place for scores once those start rolling in, and as soon as we get them, we will be more than happy to let you know. Nice cover there by Luke, taking care of the washout. Excuse me, Paul. I think I just worked in a baseball reference without even thinking or trying to. Jay Young starts with the front 4.
How did your mind go to a baseball player that played 60 years ago, 70 years ago?
Because it's the Super Senior Classic, so I had to go back that far too. And the thing is, I'm not even a White Sox fan, so that's a meal. So I'm a Cubs guy.
Yes, it is.
So I'm not even sure. I guess it's a pretty unique last name to that aspect. So
yeah, Paul Appling picked up the washout, and you mentioned Luke Appling, who played for the White Sox back in the 1930s, 1940s.
It's been that kind of morning already, so those things are going to happen. We, as we mentioned, to kick off the telecast, we had some cameras fighting us throughout the course of preparing. Fortunately, the old saying of the early bird gets the worm was very true and telling, because that extra few hours of setup this morning was definitely needed as we came down to the final few minutes to get everything up and running. So never know sometimes with technology, as Matt would say, because he loves it so much. But we're having to get everything kicked off here. We talked so much about Ron Moore. He is over on lane 17 and 18 right now. So if you are interested in seeing Ron throw a couple of shots, be sure to check out one of our other channels. A total of 12 lanes being covered this week between the Super Senior Classic as well as the USBC Senior Masters starting June 4th. And lane pairings available as well, bowl.com/Super Senior. So you're able to get a little more coverage. In the past, we've just had the 4 lanes covered, so we get a little bit wider spectrum. So Allen delivers the strike there in the 5th frame.
Don't let all the strikes on our featured pair here, 19 and 20, fool you as I'm scrolling through the live scoring that's available at bowl.com/Super Senior Classic. Yes. I'm seeing a lot of numbers that have red circles around them throughout the house. Guys are getting off that pair that they broke down in practice. They're moving to a pair that's transitioned in a way they're not familiar with because they haven't seen that pair yet, obviously. And it's taken them a couple shots to get their bearings about them and figure out, where that pair wants to play, like we talked about before we started, you mentioned that 21 of 22, I think it was, had 3 left-handers on it for that first game.
23 and 4, yeah.
Yeah, 23 and 24. And then, any lefty that might come to that pair the next game or game after is going to see a much bigger transition than they were going to expect to see. Even if they scout the pair out and see that, okay, game 1 there were 3 lefties there, it's going to be a big move for them, more than they're used to being on the left side. So I think we're seeing that here in game 2. A lot of red circles on the boards across the house.
Now, Daniel, for you, obviously most folks at this point are used to making the switch to a new pair at an event, especially qualifying like this. You're going to move around the house and, basically fight that breakdown that you spoke of. Topography is going to come into play, finding out, a pair maybe tighter or hook more, things of that nature. For you, what was the best way to kind of minimize that time and basically get back on track to, the success, assuming you had it? I'm just going to assume you were good for it. So you shot 240 the first game. But how do you keep that going? What's the quickest way to kind of bridge that gap, if you will?
Well, for a lot of people, in the chat that are watching might not know exactly how I throw the ball. I am a throwback, low ball speed, low rev type player. And so I didn't see that mega transition that a lot of your higher rev guys or even your two-handed players saw, but still, it would be there. So what I would always try and do when I went to a new pair is those first 2 shots, frame 1 and frame 2, I made sure they were the best 2 shots off my hand so I could get the absolute best read I could. Now, in the past, maybe 10 plus years ago, if the pair was considerably different than my starting pair, I would make a small move left, my feet, my eyes, hand position change, whatnot. But these days, bowling balls are so important, and they dominate the lane so much that if frames 1 and 2, I don't see the motion I want, I'm getting off that ball. I don't even try and make an adjustment with it, because typically speaking, on house shots these days, I can make 1 adjustment with a ball. If, let's say, I leave a flat 10 or a ring 10, I make an adjustment. Once that adjustment doesn't work, I'm off that ball. On some of the flatter stuff or the tougher stuff like what these guys are bowling on here, I can't make that adjustment. I've got to make that ball change. And it's been a big transition for me, for being someone who can manipulate the ball with my hand pretty well, to tell myself, okay, I am not going to try and overcomplicate this. I'm not going to try and be a control freak. This ball's not working. I've got to get off this ball. And I think that's where we're at in the game these days, is if you don't see the motion you want, you've got to put that ball up. You cannot out-bowl bad ball reaction. And you've got to get a ball in your hand that's going to give you the motion you want. And that's what kind of where these guys are going to be these next couple of games. Once we hit games 3 and 4, I think the lanes will kind of even out a little bit, and we won't see the big transition that they're going to see between games 1 and 3. But yeah, this is where I think it's most important for these guys, is games 2 and 3, trying to read the transition on each of these new pairs they hit.
All right, some excellent insight there. Mr. Farish, thank you. I'm going to put you on the spot like that throughout the course of the week, so
that's fine.
Just so you're ready.
That's what I'm here for.
There's Rich Cook. What, 6'8"? I didn't see no 6'8" up there. Takes the hit for the 3-bagger here in game number 2. I will say one of the things I did notice across practice, and I'll admit I didn't get to watch much of practice as we were trying to troubleshoot a few issues here at Samstown with just getting everything up and running yesterday during the practice sessions. But I do feel there is a fair amount of left-handers in the field, so it'll be kind of interesting to see throughout the course of that too how much variance we see on the left side too. I think that's going to be definitely going to come into play for a few of those guys. Obviously, we mentioned some great players like our defending champion Mike Diaz, Johnny Petraglia, Ron Boroff, all starting off on that same pair. So I'm going to be intrigued to see when they get to 19 through 22, where we're watching a little more closely to see the happenings on the left side. Taking a look at this pattern, there's it's slightly asymmetric. It's not completely symmetrical, and that's something most folks who have bowled the USBC these short duration events have started to see kind of regularly. See it on the PWBA tour as well. It's not necessarily the same symmetric pattern. There's a little variance to kind of play into, the amount of lefties versus the amount of righties. So kind of excited to see that. I mean, we have 2 left-handers right now in 19 and 20. So as we move along the 6 games, of course, definitely getting into the burn later today. That's going to be fun to watch.
And if you get a chance, head over to bowl.com and check out the lane graph. You'll see what he's talking about with the asymmetry and the pattern. And I think part of what that does is, for so long, when it comes to bowling on this stuff, lefties either had it or they didn't. I mean, they was either walled on the left side, and if you were cutting to the top 24, you might see, I guess it depends on how many lefties are in the field, but you might see a third of the top 24 are left-handers. Or they absolutely had nothing, and you see 2 of them up there. And by creating this asymmetry in the pattern, I think it kind of helps even that out on the left side to where they're not so hit or miss, feast or famine over there.
I think that's a great point. That's something definitely having gotten to chat with Nick Hoagland over the years, and since he's the main pattern developer, if you will, for USBC, is that he's always not only trying to have people think outside the box and attacking the pattern, but trying to find ways to create multiple angles of attack for basically a player of all. You're not basically handcuffed to be the high ref guys are going to score this week, or the low ref guys are going to have the best look, left-handers, things of that nature. So yeah, I think we'll definitely see that throughout the course of this week, as well as next week with the Senior Masters.
And going back to what we were talking about with this transition game 2, game 1, I counted myself 4 guys that had front 7 throughout the house, and we've had 1 person get past the front 5 this game. It's Jim Lushik. Not quite sure how to pronounce that last name. He's on front 6 down on lane 52, but that's the only guy that we have stringing to start the game past the front 5.
If he keeps striking, we're going to learn that name real quick.
Yes, we are. And I will happily ask him, how do you pronounce your last name, sir?
Way down there on 51 and 52. 56 lanes here at Samstown, all but the end pairs in play. So as we mentioned, pace going to move pretty quickly with 3 and 4 on a pair throughout each of the blocks. Once again, our second round B squad will be on the lanes at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 local time here in Las Vegas. So if you're in the area, come on out. Don't cost nothing. Come watch some of the top super seniors. And you can get Daniel Farish's autograph as well. But he charges $3 or Mountain Dew for that. So
Preferably Mountain Dew.
Preferably Mountain
Yes.
Dew. There we go.
As a grown man, that's one thing I have not perfected as a signature. I can't sign anything. I have no, it's awful. It's chicken scratch. I can balance a checkbook, not that any of us do that anymore. I can mow the lawn, I can put gas in my car before it hits empty. I have no signature.
I feel like I'm similar with that. Like I can be close. Like I have the shape and the design. Like it's there. But if I have to do like 2 or 3 in a row, then I can clearly see the difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if I'm just doing one, I'm like, oh, okay, that looks respectable. And then when you do 2 or 3, I'm like, oh, what happened here? This one looks so good. Why this one looks so bad? So we have Michaela in the chat cheering on Jay Young. Jay's put together quite a game so far. Just the 1 miscue in the 6th frame, leaving the 3, 4, 6, 7. Everything else has been strikes, so Jay's going to be stepping up here on lane 20. We see Jay kind of moving a little bit further left, kind of creating some shape out there, a little bit closer to 3rd arrow already. Although that one, a little bit right of that third arrow. Maybe I just misjudged it from my current angle. But I would just keep doing that because that looked really good.
That did look really good. That was 10 straight back.
Alan Saban having a nice game as well over on 21 and 22. Makes it 5 in a row. He can get to 265 this game. Looks like Robert Scott shot 277 the first game to take the overall lead. Let's see if we have that posting online yet. We do have the scoreboards on site here as well, so we're able to kind of cheat and see those. Still waiting for those to populate online, but we'll keep you up to date though. Next time that scrolls around. Definitely a lot of players on the right side of plus though. Just taking a look here in the early going, so you can definitely get some pins on the fresh.
You know, it's nice to come over here and see a lot of these high scores. As we said, Ron Moore steps up in the ninth on 279 pace over on lane 18. But after spending the last 2 months over at the South Point Bowling Plaza watching the Open Championships on a very demanding team event pattern, a little appears to be higher scoring singles and doubles pattern. Guys seem to have a better job hitting that. But after watching some very struggling scores on team event, it's nice to come over here for a day or two and watch some strikes being thrown. And plus, as we mentioned, I'm sure that the quality of talent in this field is stronger than any individual day over at the Plaza, just because you've got guys out here that are at a level above, well above your typical league bowler.
It's definitely a great group we have here. So far, they've been striking a bunch for us.
Jim over on lane 51. I'm going to hold off on saying the last name till I know what it is for sure.
What are we up to? 7?
7. He's up in the 8th right now.
All right. Of course, for any of those big highlights, we'll be posting those later today or shortly thereafter on social media. The Sport of Bowling USBC on Facebook, at USBC on Twitter, the place to be, along with a recap story at the end of the day, bowl.com, place to be to check out all the good stuff. Another great shot there from Tran. Gonna have a chance to get to 245 this game. Nice cover there by Rich in the foundation frame, taking care of the 24710.
Well, Jim struck in the 8th down on lane 51 and 52, so I'm going to head down there and watch.
All right. Daniel Farish. And our first look at 300 potentially here at the Super Senior Classic. So we'll keep an eye on Jim on 51 and 52. Once again, you can do that as well on our live scoring application. So we wrap up game 2, A Squad, round 1 here at the Super Senior Classic. Do apologize about some audio difficulties to start. I think we got that squared away now. Oh, come on, 7-pin. Well, if you're going to stand, that's the best place for it. Jay Young with a great 259 to get to plus 63 overall. Ron Moore also shot 277 in that opening game, so Ron's going to be making the turn at 500 plus. Trans final shot's going to come in a little bit light, but he got the double. It's going to be at 2 of 44. Paul, not Luke Appling. He's working on a nice string of strikes as well. So some of the transition Daniel talked about first part of game 2. Players have kind of settled in and figured it out. Alan Saban's going to be in the 260s now. Some big scores here in the early going. Daniel's back, so that means Jim did not strike.
Yeah, my ability to jinx bowlers with my icy stare, I guess. I didn't leave that ability at South Point. I brought it with me over here. It was a little left off his hand, went through the nose, left a 310. The 10 fell late, so left just a 3-pin.
Nice 220 there for Paul. Yeah, bouncing back after a few early splits. Runs back the last 7. Vince is going to have a chance to get to 247 here on 19 and 20. So a lot of big numbers for a pair of left-handers and Mr. Jay Young. As I mentioned, Ron Moore is going to be going to have a chance to be making the turn at 521. So oof. He kind of likes Samstown.
You think?
He's struck a bit here over the past year or two. Of course, Ron doesn't live too far away in northern or North Las Vegas. I'm not sure the actual cutoff for that, what makes it north versus just regular Las Vegas, but I'm sure Ron would be kind enough to tell us.
I think it's one of those things, you can't explain it, but you know it when you're there.
Fair point.
And he gets that strike to get to 521 after 2 games.
Finns, just to show off, takes care of the 367 there to get to 234. Tran 244, Young 259 in big game 2 over on 19 and 20. Paul Appling 220, Alan Saban 265. Tough break for Rich Cook on that 10-pin. Going high flush. Good shot there from Carl, but he too finds the 10-pin as his fate to kick off frame number 10. Rich can now max out 195. Carl can get to 183 with the spare conversion here to wrap up at game 2.
Saban on that pair making the turn at 500 as well.
So all 4 or 3 players, depending on what it is, do travel together throughout the course of qualifying. So essentially these 4 will be paired up throughout the course of competition. So let's see if we can find who's coming up next here for game 3. It looks like on 21 and 22, we'll be joined by Gary Burke, Paul Melens, Skip Pavone, and Marty Hinton. And 19 and 20, it's going to be Pete McCordick, Mike Saravia, Tony Marion, and Russell Booth. At least those are my early predictions of who will arrive. However, game 2 in the books. Game 3 coming up next here on newbowltv.com, the home of the PWBA Tour and all USBC short duration events. I'm Aaron Smith sitting alongside Daniel Farish. We will be here for wire-to-wire coverage of the 2019 event, but as we wait for our competitors here in Game 3, be sure to check out one of our other channels. We still have bowling going on in 23 through 26. 3 channels, 12 lanes in play throughout the course of the competition this week. All right, good folks of Bowl TV land. It looks as if we are going to be up and running on both of our featured pairs here in just a moment. Here's Pete and Tony. And the rest of the gang, so. All right, getting ready for frame number 3 on 21 and 22. It's going to be Pete McCordick, wasting no time. Getting things going on 1920. Peter and his brother Paul in the field this week. Both players have had success here. Some close calls. Been in position to win the Super Senior Classic, but have yet to do so. But definitely would not be surprised to see Pete or Paul, or both of them, in the stepladder finals at the end of the week. Here's our first look at Tony Marion. There's Gary Burke up on lane 21. Skip Pavone will be up next on 22.
And for clarification from earlier, that was Jim Lessick.
Lessick.
Yes.
So that extra U in there was just...
It was throwing me off,
It was unnecessary in the grand scheme of things, but necessary for proper spelling. So there we go.
Yeah, Lessick is one of the 4, and this is just by my count, by scrolling through the live scoring and looking at the cumulative numbers. We'll get an official number once they hand out Game 2 standings, but Lessick is one of the 4 guys that have kind of separated themselves from the rest of the field. Ron Moore is at 521, Alan Sabins at 500, Jim Lessick at 496, and Michael Hastings at 493. After that, from what I've counted, it's a 30-pin drop-off to the next closest guy, Jay Young at 463. So we've got a couple guys that have kind of separated themselves, but obviously it's early.
Definitely early, but I think that's a good sign, though, that you can get a score on the fresh out here. Sometimes particular events you see, folks wait for the opportunity on the burn squad. That's kind of their time to get pins, but I think that kind of also talks to, the ability to play multiple angles and have multiple people find success with different styles here in the early going, that there's a handful of folks who are averaging well over 230. Essentially on the fresh 40-foot condition we have out here, to, know that, hey, you can get a score. You don't have to wait for the burn. You don't have to, there's a score anytime. If you struggle on the burn, hey, maybe I'm going to hit the fresh. So always like seeing that, like seeing that variety and being able to have folks kind of get their pins just by making the best shots they can instead of necessarily waiting on a particular part of the block.
Well, and a lot of guys out there, I did mention those 4 names are 4 guys that are all above plus 90 after 2, but the group of bowlers between plus 60 and plus 50, right in that 225, 230 range, I counted a dozen. So there's a lot of guys that are just outside that top 4 that have kind of separated themselves, that one big game, and they could be getting mentioned after Game 3. I mean, it's a lot of big numbers out there on the fresh.
Did you hear that, B squad? We're expecting you to strike tomorrow. And essentially what, I think it's kind of been common practice, and, with events like Queens and Masters and the U.S. Open in the past, is that, especially when you see people get to attack the pattern, if you get to start on the burn and then you go to the fresh, you're generally more aggressive on the fresh than, say, the folks on A squad the day before. So, or at least that's, that could obviously change this week, but something that's kind of been a common trend over the years. So, B squads, they're going to see the hook, they're going to see friction. So they're probably going to try and get to that spot, especially if, if you find success there, you're going to try and want to get back to that part of the lane. So just another thing to be on the lookout for throughout the course of these first 2 days. Obviously qualifying 12 games, it's a marathon, not a sprint, but sprinting's fun too. Not for me personally, but in general.
Yeah, I'm much more of a a long format competitor. The short sprints, whether it's actual running or a 5-game sweeper, don't play into my strengths. I'm much more of a slow and steady wins the race kind of guy. But going back to what you were saying, the guys that start on the burn, if they have success, they want to try and get back to that area of the lane when they hit the fresh the next day. That was even something that I saw back at the U.S. Open back, I think it was 2012 at Carolier. When I bowled that after day 2, I was tied for 24th with Misty Park, and I was in the match play cut. And then I at that point had very limited experience at the PBA level. And day 3, everybody started an arrow to an arrow and a half deeper than when they had started on the fresh the first day. And I started where I had started on the fresh the first day because it was fresh, burn, fresh. And we were caught. I had no clue what was going on. I bowled a terrible third day block, and was made the Cashier's Cup, but was outside of the top 24. And it wasn't something that we learned about until we went to a trade show later that summer. And one of the ball reps was like, "Yeah," he goes, "that's what the guys on tour do. Each day as the tournament goes on, they tend to migrate in deeper and deeper to start." And so that's something that I saw even 7 years ago, and has made its way to 2019 and senior tournaments and even youth tournaments. I mean, junior gold, and it's what us players do.
It's all about adapting. That's why I'm glad I only have to adapt for 3 games every year at the Open Championships.
You mean to tell me you're like Matt? You don't bowl the entire 9 games?
I did not, or I have not the past 2 years. So I've just done team event. Matt bowls doubles and singles, so between the 2 of us, we get an all events total. So, like this year, we weren't bad. We were plus this year. So,
because he shot 12.56 for his singles and doubles.
I was 5.95 in team. So,
okay.
Well, I will gladly take our plus effort. It's a new all events record for me. So thanks, Matt. I appreciate that. Now, for those of you who follow the USBC Open Championships Facebook page, of course, A, thank you for doing so, and B, we've gotten to see Daniel quite a bit in the weekly glances, but for those of you who got to catch him bowl, Pete.
Oh, Pete. Oh,
my
man.
goodness, that'll stop you mid-sentence right there. That dirty 8-pin. It should know better. That's Pete McCord. Come on. But Daniel, you got the opportunity to compete out there at the OC, and you got to do so in very festive pants.
I did, my cow pants.
You had cow pants.
Caused a little bit of uproar on social media, but if you don't have people talking about you, then you're not doing anything worth talking about.
That's a fair point. I cannot argue that logic. So, but you had a nice little event yourself, though.
I did. I'm not going to get into exactly what I did out there and what did or didn't work, but I will say that what I did in team event didn't work the way I had hoped it would. And I shot 581, I think, in team. And then singles and doubles, I did exactly what I wanted to do and went plus 140, so I finished at 1913.
1913.
For my all events number. So
very nice.
I was very satisfied. My goal was just to get to 1800 in my 6 years before this year that I bowled the OC. I'd never shot under 18, so that was, as being a USBC employee, we can't win money or play brackets or anything. So all we get is the pinfall towards our record and the participation year on our record, which makes 100% sense. So my only goal was to shoot 18, and I found myself going into game 6 of singles and doubles with a chance to get to 19, and I was like, oh man, this is great. So very thrilled with my OC performance this year.
Very nice, sir. Now, Daniel, for the folks at home who are hearing you for the first time here on Bowl TV, you're definitely no stranger to being on the air, though, so that's why you sound so natural.
8 years in radio will do that to you.
But this this very soothing, I don't want to call it an accent, but a certain tone to your voice. Where does that come from?
Louisville, Kentucky.
Louisville.
I'm never from as far south as people think I am. When I'm talking to them, they'll say, "Oh, are you from Texas? Are you from Alabama?" And I'm like, "No, just Kentucky."
And it's Louisville.
Yes, it's Louisville. I tell people, try to swallow your tongue when you say it.
Louisville.
Yeah,
All right.
There's no ooey. There's no oois.
Yeah.
It's Louisville.
There'll be an ooey at some point this week. I'm just going to, I don't want to offend you later. I'm just going to let you know it's going to happen by accident at some point this week. I'm going to try my best not to.
Or at least you're warning me.
I'm giving you a heads up, though. But
we do have some Game 2 scores, as we mentioned. Ron Moore, plus 121. Robert Scott, 102. Alan Sabin, 100. Jim Lessick, plus 96. And Michael Hastings at 93. And then a 30-pin drop-off. Jay Young at 63. Steven Slifka, 62. Ross Ziegler, 62. Weedmar Vargas, 58. And rounding at the top 10, Roy Yamanua at plus 56.
all right, so that's a pretty formidable top 10, all averaging nearly 230. So tough break there for Skip. We've seen a few of the upper deck 7s and 10s here on our featured pairs, so that high hit not always as forgiving as we'd like.
Of course, after 12 games of qualifying, we're cutting to the top 50. So the best way, a way to take a look at what the cut might be even this early with only half the tournament bowling right now is look at what is 25th. Take your cut number, which is 50, and divide it by 2. Since there's 2 squads, right now 25th, so a number to look at for a possible cut is a 211.5 average as of right now. Of course, that could change, but it's a pretty tried and true system. To figure out a cut, it's probably going to be somewhere around there, I feel comfortable saying.
You heard it here first.
And if I'm wrong, I'm going to delete this telecast from the vault and no one will ever hear of it again.
As Daniel mentioned, we do cut to the top 50 after these 12 qualifying games. Those players will return. Today is Thursday, so that will be Saturday. We will head to the Cashers round. They will return for 6 games before another cut takes place to the top 12 for match play. The match play, a little unique here. For those of you who follow the PWBA, it was kind of the old group stepladder format leading up to that to determine our stepladder finalists. So match play for those top 12 will be broken up into 2 groups of 6. The odd seeds will be in one, and the even seeds will be in another group. They will have one round of round-robin match play. It's always weird to say the word round twice in that situation, but we move on. But essentially, after that, total pinfall. Along with bonus pins from the match play round, will determine who's going to be our top 2 on the seeds, the top overall players in each of those. Someone skip a break here. We'll move on to the stepladder finals, and then the group stepladder for the 2, 3, and 4 seeds in each of those groups will battle off for the final 2 spots in the stepladder finals, which will be taking place Sunday right here at Sam's Town.
What I do like about the format of this tournament is it has all 3 disciplines that a bowler could face in a tournament. You've got the total pin for qualifying, you've got round robin match play, and then you have a stepladder. And to win a tournament like this, you have to be able to change your mental outlook as each block approaches. You know, you're going to look at a 12-game qualifying block a lot differently than a 6 games of round robin match play. And then, of course, stepladder, it's 1 game or you're done. So you're going to approach that differently than you would the other 2. And you've got to be very disciplined at all 3 to be able to come out on top of something like this. defending champion Mike Diaz is minus 44 after the first two, but down on lane 42, he's on the front five right now. So he's starting to pick it up this game a little bit.
And once again, with the way players are paired, I think that's such an interesting grouping with 3 left-handers among the group and 3 talented left-handers to boot as well. Ron Boroff and Johnny Petraglia and Diaz. So those gentlemen definitely can strike a bunch once they get going. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of manage this pattern from the port side.
We do have one Open Championships celebrity bowling in this squad this morning. That's Mike Schmid. Mike, just a couple of weeks ago, reached the 100,000 pin mark at the Open Championships. And I know as a lifelong bowler and someone who's been shoulder deep in this sport my entire life, that I understand how big a deal that was. But I didn't quite grasp it, as funny as that sounds, until I got to the office that day, and there were people in the office that aren't bowlers or that only bowl one league and that's it. When those people were overly excited about it, that's when I was like, oh man, this is a huge deal. And it was so cool to be down in the pit area. Matt went live from the stands there at the South Point Bowling Plaza on the USBC page, and I was down in the pit area getting video of the moment. And he struck, he had carried a high flush 4-pin in the eighth or ninth frame of his second game of singles to get there. And I felt goosebumps and chills just run through my body when it happened. And I got the opportunity to interview Mike afterwards, a video interview, and then do an audio interview for the feature article that we wrote. And that was a really neat experience. I went down and talked to him a little bit before bowling here, and he was excited to be here and looking forward to it. And he said everybody back home was just so proud of him and happy for him. And the small world that it is, one of my friends back in Minnesota commented on my status when I put something up about what Mike did, and he says that the Mike Schmidt. And I said, well, I would assume so. And Ken said, he said, Mike drilled my first bowling ball.
How about that?
So it was a neat little tie-in to my hometown back in Louisville that somebody there had a ball drilled by Mike way back in the day.
Very cool. And it's definitely one of those things, as Daniel mentioned, Matt went Facebook Live, and then you got video as well while you were down there in the bowlers area. But it's definitely worth going back and to watch. As you mentioned, the goosebumps, I'm even thinking about now. Like it's one of those things where I've worked the Open Championships a few times, so I've been there for a few 100,000 pins, and yeah, it's one of those things where if you don't get emotional about it, you almost like are you breathing?
Yeah.
Type thing, because not even I basically worked 1 week at the Open this year filling in for Matt, and I'm kind of away from it. But yeah, just seeing that, it's so cool to know that a lifetime of love for this sport can push someone, to bowl for 58 years, I believe Mike has.
This was his 58th year.
And, just to consistently come out and just have such dedication and love for the sport and the event, to have that moment kind of come together, especially with a strike, come on. And then everyone in the stands as well having the cutout heads. That was just fantastic. So I would definitely recommend checking it out. The USBC Open Championships Facebook page. Very, very cool stuff.
Yeah, that's one of the videos on my phone that is going to stay there. And then at some point I'm going to put it on a laptop, but I'm not going to get rid of that video of that happening in that moment. That was history right there. That was neat. That was really neat.
Have Paul Malins, all these vowels today
I know.
sneaking up on us. But regardless, Paul has 7 in a row. He's going to be stepping up here in lane 22, far right of your screen, making the turn at plus 10. Definitely going to be more than plus 10 after this game.
Didn't look happy with it off his hand.
Yeah, definitely looked, he's going a little more direct to the 1-3. But yeah, that one definitely looked a little left off his hand. Fortunate just to have the 4-7 stand up there. Could have been a little bit worse, but it's going to be off to a great start here in game 3 and still have a chance to get into the 270s.
The only other string out there is, we mentioned defending champion Mike Diaz is on front 7, down on lane 42 right now.
As you mentioned, Mike was minus heading into that game, correct?
Yes, minus 44.
So how quickly things can change. Just one big game. Paul takes care of the spare, though. He'll step up for his 9th and 10th coming up here. It's again a chance to make a big jump in the standings. As you mentioned, Daniel, one big game can really catapult you up here. Even when the scoring pace is kind of high like it is right now. Can't argue 260, 270 to give you a boost. We will report that Ron Moore will not be shooting 800, but he's going to have a nice start here on the field. After making the turn at 521, has a chance to get into the 230s this game. His 9th and 10th frame to go over on lanes 25 and 26. Opportunity for 750 and change for the 2017 Super Senior Classic champion.
Robert Scott, who made the turn at 502, has doubled the 10th, so he's going to shoot, if he strikes in the field ball, be 210. So he's going to be just over plus for this game.
Looks like Diaz had his string of strikes end. Just our vibe of talking about it seems to.
The curse is that strong, man, I'm telling you.
We joke about it, but it's kind of a real thing. Even though we don't deliver the bowling ball or affect it in any way. But it's real.
Couple other big numbers out there. Dennis Powell, who made the turn at plus 23, can punch the 10th for 250 even.
I believe we had Mr. Powell on during game 1 over on 19 and 20.
Just a few pair down from us, Jimmy Johnson, not the NFL coach and not the NASCAR driver, is on max score 279 through 8 frames, open in the first frame, 7 in a row after that. He was at 385, so minus 15 after the first 2 games.
Now I wonder if that's the Jimmy Johnson from bowling.
I think it is.
Might be. We'll have to take a gander down there in a second. Verify that. What lane did you say that was on again?
12.
12. It's not that far away. Might go walk over there and verify that.
taking a look at some of the scores across the house, not just the numbers at the end of the game, but looking at the frames themselves. A trend I'm noticing is that a pattern like this can be tricky because these guys are having no problem striking. Well, I guess I should say they're having no problem carrying the pocket. But, you know, there are obviously 9 spares out there, and guys are leaving 8 pins and 10 pins and single pins in the pocket. But you're seeing a lot of 7 spare, 8 spare, and a lot of splits that are surrounded by strikes. So this pattern gives off the feel that it might be easy because you're seeing strings, but when you miss, or at least when these guys are missing, they're paying an ultimate penalty. I'm not seeing a lot of pocket hits that result in bad breaks or bad single pin leaves, but I'm seeing a lot of small mistakes that result in 2 or 3 pins left on the pin deck that are very far apart, and the odds of making said leave are not in the bowler's favor.
We don't like it when those pins are far apart.
That makes 2 of us. This is one of those high-scoring patterns that still demands shot-making ability, which even on a typical house shot, you have to be able to make quality shots to strike a lot. But on something like this, it's different because you can get lulled into a false sense of what's out there. And the minute that you get complacent or relaxed or you think, I've got this, is the minute that you go back-to-back big 4, 2, 8, 10, and you're left wondering what in the world just happened.
And how big is scoring pace play on the mind for a competitor? When you were out there, you know, if you saw something like this where, you know, we have basically 10 guys in the early going averaging nearly 230, and if you're not one of those 10 guys, I mean, if you're a hit away or if you're 2 or 3 hits away, you know, how much does that affect you? How much does that come into your mindset of, you know, is it time to make, you know, we kind of talked about trying to get out, find the right ball reaction, you know.
Well, it
can outbowl that. But how much does scoring pace affect that, too?
It can absolutely make you push. I mean, whether you're one of the guys that's stringing strikes, obviously you'd rather be in Rod Morris' position to make the turn at 521. But making that turn, you feel like, okay, I've got the lead. I've got a good distance, not just over the cut, but over the field. And you want to continue striking that much, and if you lose it for a pair or two, you start to tighten up a little bit. And then if you're one of the guys that's in that plus 40, plus 30 to plus 60 range, you know, and there, depending on where your hits came in the game, if you're 50 pins behind the leader, that could be 3 hits. You know,
Certainly.
3 single pins on a double or a single strike out there. So if you're not one of the guys striking, you've got to be able to calm yourself down and resist the temptation to make a big move or make a big jump and try and get greedy rather than let the lane come to you. And it's the way that I look at multi-pattern, multi-qualifying squad tournaments. It's a tournament back in Louisville called the Kentucky Open, or back in Kentucky called the Kentucky Open. We bowl 3 patterns, 3 houses, Friday night, Saturday morning, Saturday night. And whether you're bowling something like that or junior gold, you always want to make the next day relevant. You don't want to bowl so bad on Friday night trying to lead the squad that you make the next day irrelevant, that you bowl yourself out of the cut trying to lead after game 1 on the first day. So it's all about making the next day relevant. So for these guys that are between that maybe plus 30 to 60 range right now, are they going to take the lead in one game? No, probably not. But they've just got to keep plugging along, keep doing what they're doing, and make tomorrow's burn squad relevant, because you don't want to push today trying to average 250, end up averaging 2-0, and then have to go out tomorrow and have to average 250 to make a cut.
Some great points there, yes.
So you want to make the next day relevant, and don't lose sight of that.
Excellent insight there. I like that. Make the next day relevant. I've never heard it phrased quite so nicely. So, thank you, Daniel. Pete McCordick getting lined up here at the end of game 3. Now 5 in a row. Paul Paul Malin's finishing with 265 that game on 21 and 22. Great bowling, Paul. That's going to give him a big boost. Jump right up into that plus 75 range, I want to say. I think he was at plus 10, so big jump up there for Paul. Tony in the 10th frame. He's going to max out at 199 with the spare. One more shot for Pete. Finish at 236. No doubter right there. He's going to be moving to the right side of plus, now plus 34 through 3 games. Mike and Russell still looking to finish up game 3 here.
Mike was plus after game 1, or after game 2, excuse me, but has hit a pair that has not been to his liking. 3 splits, 4 opens total.
And now, when based off the conversation we just had, when you find a pair like that, or you hit a pair like that where things just don't go your way, and as you mentioned, he's going to be dropping from plus to unfortunately minus here. What's the right mindset? What's Mike? What should he be saying in his head right now? He's like, okay, I'm done with this pair. I don't have to worry about 19 and 20, hopefully for a while. How do I find what I found those first 2 games?
Well, there's 2 ways he can go about this once he hits the next pair, and I don't know that he'll be able to choose which way he wants to approach it until you're a few frames into the next game. There's 2 ways to look at it. Either A, that was the way he needs to go into the next pair is say that was just a bad pair. The next pair is going to be fine, but you won't know for sure until you throw a couple of shots on that next pair. So he can either say, okay, that was a pair, I hit a bad pair, I hit a bad transition, and this 4th game is going to be better, or once he gets into the 4th game, he's got to go, okay, maybe this is how the pattern's transitioning, and I've got to make a pretty substantial move. If you're banging out 190-2-0, 2-10 with this scoring pace, as he takes the 7 off the 2-7, unfortunately, to shoot 137. If you're banging out between 190 and 210 on this pace, you're almost there. You're close, and it's going to come to you. Maybe it's a small move, maybe it's a ball change, but when you go from even, he was +1 after 2 games. When you go from basically even to a 137, you either hit a terrible pair or you missed the transition, you missed the jump, and you missed it big. And you've got to make a big change. You've got to make a ball change and a move, a ball change, a move, hand position change. There's a lot of things you need to do to get back to where you were if it's how the pattern transitioned and it wasn't just the pair. So he's got his work coming up for him in the next half hour.
Definitely a few moments to reflect before hitting the next pair and moving on once again. Attacking the lanes from the left side. We've seen a few left-handers make their way through 19 and 20 so far, so that transition certainly can be sneaking up. Russell Booth is going to finish with 205 to wrap up game 3 here on our featured pairs. It looks like 23 through 26 is quiet for the moment as well, but we still have bowling going on lanes 15 through 18, so below the video you can find the different channels to view. So at the moment, please feel free to check out lanes 15 through 18 as they wrap up a game number 3. We see a few folks still with the 10th frame to go over there, especially on 17 and 18. So please feel free to check it out. As we wait for our competitors, we're going to take a quick station break, but we'll be back here on Bowl TV for continued coverage of the Super Senior Classic here at Samstown. Welcome back, everybody, to Bowl TV's continued coverage of the 2019 Super Senior Classic taking place here at the Samstown Bowling Center as part of the Samstown Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm Aaron Smith, sitting alongside former Junior Team USA member Daniel Farish. We are in Game 4 of 6 for A Squad qualifying, with B Squad coming up later today, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 local time here in Las Vegas. Already underway in Game 4, Steve Jansen is up on lane 20, Ronnie Burgess and Tom Slowinski will be our 3 on 19 and 20. We have Louis Manzella, John Carroll, Ross Ziegler, and Jeff Mann, a senior, over on 21 and 22.
We're starting to see now some of these players more on the right side, starting to make that move in. We're seeing them cross more around third arrow. They've kind of burned up that spot just right of second arrow, and they're starting to move in. What they're doing when they move in is they're not necessarily trying to get away from that hook spot so much as they're trying to find more hold. Because when you know you have guaranteed hook, you're not afraid of the ball 2/8 inning. You're afraid of missing left and paying a penalty bigger than a 4-pin. So they're trying to move left to find more oil in the heads, the first 15, 20 feet of the lane, so that if they do miss left early, their ball's not going to grip and go left. It's going to skid down the lane. So we're going to see, even a tournament like this, you're not going to see the rev rates that you see on the PBA Tour on TV. But like we kind of talked about before, bowling balls are such a huge influence on the lane these days that even with the rev rate as low as these guys, and I say that comparatively to the EJ Tackett's and the Jacob Buttriffs and the guys on that level, even with a medium to low rev rate, you're going to see that ball do some weird things if you don't have enough oil to help these things get down the lane. So when they're moving left, they're not so much getting away from that burn as they're trying to find a little more oil to get the ball down the lane.
Generally, when players do that, trying to create a little bit steeper angle through the front part of the lane to find that aforementioned hold, that sweet, sweet hold. It is nice when you find it, isn't it?
It is.
Of course, the greatest goal of all this, obviously, you want to go out there and you want to make the best shots you can time and time again. Repeat your process. Get the ball into the push away at the right time. Don't pull down on the swing, let go of it nice and easy, kind of the full culmination of a great shot, but being able to create a little bit of room along the way to where you don't have to, needle in a haystack to find a way to get all 10 back is the ultimate goal. So being able to find that perfect matchup, if you will, going through the process to, select the right ball, right speed, right part of the lane, right amount of revolutions, all kind of working together into that perfect unison to basically do what Ron Moore's done so far.
Yeah, we don't have any official numbers after Game 3 quite yet, but just from glancing up and down the lanes and looking at some of the cumulative numbers, Ron Moore is plus 147. I believe the next closest is Robert Scott at 112, and then it's quite a drop-off. Michael Warren plus 85, Alan Saban plus 80. So some of those guys who were within 10, 15 pins of Ron Moore, more like 20, 25 pins of Ron Moore after Game 2 have fallen more than 20 to 25 pins away after Game 3.
And for Ron, he's been coming to this event for a few years now. As we mentioned, he's got one of the banners up there. 2017 champion, was the runner-up in 2016. He's very familiar with Samstown. So, one of the things we hear so much about today, and see across the board is players, keep notes across the board as they're at a particular house. They know the tendencies, know the moves, know when the moves are going to happen, know the lane surface, know the topography. All of that helps you basically trim up that transition time, as we talked about a little bit earlier in the broadcast, of being able to, if you can save yourself a frame or two to find the look, knowing that, hey, I'm going to hit this pair, and, in the past, the right lane always seemed to hook maybe 2 boards more than the left. If you can cut down that time that quickly, you go from two frames of searching and, maybe hoping for 9 spare versus, you got an early double, and you're already thinking, okay, how can I turn this pair into 230, 240, 250?
And it is tough walking into a house bowling against someone the level of Ron Moore when you know that they know this house like the back of their hands. Back in Louisville, I kind of had that whenever we bowl anything at Executive Bowl. Executive Bowl was on the PBA Tour schedule for a long time. The PWBA is going to be there this August.
That's correct, yeah.
Actually. And I think I might be helping out a little bit there when you all come to my hometown. But whenever I bowled at Executive Bowl, before they put the synthetics in, there's a guy named Tony Lambert, who's a two-handed lefty, and he was two-handing it before it was cool. And Tony is even at 40, 41, is still one of the smoothest two-handers I've ever seen in my life. But he knew Executive like the back of his hand. Same with Mike Wolf, PBA Tour player. Mike's got six or seven titles on tour. He runs the pro shop at Executive. And those two guys in that house knew every pair. They knew the nuances. We didn't exactly have topography for the house, but they knew things. They knew that, okay, on 15 and 16, the ball is going to hook a little sooner on one lane than the other. They knew how the high end of the house played compared to the low end of the house. They knew how individual pairs played compared to the ones next to them, not just one end to the other. So you knew walking into that house, those are two guys, no matter the pattern, no matter the scoring pace, the time of day, the time of year, it did not matter. Those were the ones to beat. So Ron Moore definitely has an advantage coming into Sam's Town over the rest of the field. It does not guarantee success, but it's a nice little nugget to have in your back pocket. Again, going back to his success in this house, runner-up in 16, he won the title in 17, and then last year, 2018, he made it to one of the group stepladder finals and lost out to Warren Nelson, 234-224, so he was one game away from making the TV stepladder finals last year as well. So continued success for Ron in this house. We're going to have some Game 3 numbers in front of us in just about 15 seconds as the scroll on the monitor between the scoring monitors in front of us, it's updated. Ron Moore, 147. Robert Scott, 112. Michael Warren, 85. Alan Sabin, 80. Jim Lessick, 77. And then your top 10, John Babbitt, plus 76. Michael Lucente, plus 75. Paul Melens, plus 75. Michael Hastings, 74. And Ross Ziegler, plus 65. That's your top 10 right now. Looking at the live scoring, we do have one string on the pair in front of us. Don't even need live scoring for this. You can see it in front of us. Thomas Slawinski on the front 6 on 19 and 20. He'll be up on lane 19. He's up right now. He'll be stepping up in just a few moments. Down on lane 41, Daniel Stricker, who is minus 11 after the first 3, is on the front 5. And it looks like as far as strings to start the game, that is it for game 4. Slawinski carries the Swisher in the 7th. The old adage, if it doesn't matter how, it's how many. Well, Aaron, we're down to 1 string in the building as Daniel Stricker split in the 6th. And that string is in front of us.
How about that? Nice and close. Seems like they've always been creeping up on like 53 or 4.
Down in the 40s, yeah. I like not having to get up to go jinx someone, apparently.
This is true. It's a poor way to get our steps in for the day, but it does save us the opportunity. Plus, we get to see it multiple ways. Oh, come on.
Oh! Scouts the 10 for the front 8.
There we go. How about that? You got flex after that one.
That's a scout for us low rev guys right there.
Hey, I'll take them when you can get them. I get 2 a year, so I know when I see one, I'm like, oh no. There's only one more the rest of the calendar year. Well, when that second one happens, then it's like, why do I even?
Why bother lacing up at that point?
Hell, just take. We gotta wait till 2020 now. Come on. So for Tom, he was minus 42. Heading into this game, so he's quickly going to hop on the right side of plus here. It's a nice shot there by Steve, bouncing back after the split. Now 3 out of the last 4 for him here in game 4. Here's Tom. Can he make a 9? It's kind of a chance.
Got it right. Light 7-pin.
Pinfall was a little weird there too. It looked like that
it
was
did.
almost a mixer 4-7 there for a second.
Yeah, the 2-4 went down in an odd way.
But in that situation, just want to give yourself a chance, Tom. Through the kitchen sink over there. But his string ends at 8.
Picks up the 7-pin, no problem. Leader after 3, Ron Moore, struggling a little bit this game. He has more 9 counts than he does strikes. Missed one of those 9 counts in the 4th. Assuming he picks up his spare in the 7th, he can max out at 226 this game.
One of the things I've learned about Ron over the years is that, for instance, if we end up talking to him after this block for leading the way, since he is leading after 3, definitely not a stretch of the imagination, is that I wouldn't be surprised if he mentions how upset he was about missing that single pin in Game 4, just in the common flow of talking about his day. Because that's the type of guy Ron is.
I know that would come up if I was in that position. I'm not somebody who makes it commonplace to miss single pins, so when I do, I typically remember them and dwell on them. Second place, Robert Scott finishes with 210, a clean 210 this game. Had the first 3 strikes and then spares the rest of the way except for a strike in the 8th. So he started out strong. Looks like he may have lost the pair a little bit. Stayed clean, shot 210. So maintained that plus trend.
Mike Warren is in 3rd at plus 85. That's Chris Warren's brother. Talked to Chris Warren yesterday about his upcoming title defense at the Senior Masters next week, and he mentioned that both of his brothers competing at the Super Senior Classic, so that makes Chris the youngin out of the group. But
now Chris is based out of the Pacific Northwest, correct?
He is from Oregon nowadays, but originally from the Southwest, from Texas, I believe. So grew up, bowling alongside the likes of, learning the ways from Norm Duke and Del Ballard. And Del's, I've seen Del walking around this week as a ball rep, and then Norm saw him earlier today as well, just in town already, taking in the festivities. But Mike and Chris's other brother Butch both bowling the Super Senior Classic as well as the Senior Masters next week. So in talking with Chris just about the title defense coming up, he said, it's just pretty special to be able to have both of them here because they kind of live all across the country. So they're a bowling family. He said he's hoping they're actually scheduled to bowl the Open Championships after all this is said and done too. Said one of his brothers, I don't remember if it was Mike or Butch, might have to sneak out for a wedding anniversary, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Definitely not upset about that. So, but Chris is pretty excited to have some family alongside him as well for his title defense. So, should be fun to see Chris make his run as Tom finishes with a nice 267. So he's going to jump to plus 25 just like that.
Currently 5th in the standings, Jim Lessick. We were talking about him earlier on that front 7. He has one open this game and has not struck yet as he attempts to convert a spare in the 8th. He can max out at 198, assuming he makes this spare in the 8th. So he's struggling on 13 and 14 a little bit this game. take a look at some of the other competitors inside the top 10 after game 3. Ross Ziegler, who is currently 10th, can max out this game at 258. He is through 7 frames. Paul Meelan's down on 27 and 28, can strike out the 10th for 236. And we mentioned Ron still 9 sparing than Bedeth as he steps up in the 9th. So this may be a chance to see some guys close the gap on that leader and some shuffling inside that top 10.
Louis, come on, give Louis a double there. Brutal 7-pin for Mr. Manzella.
And that's something, hits like that. I've talked with a lot of my fellow competitors about this over really the last couple of years. We see more high flush right-handers see more high flush 7s and half 7s than I ever remember seeing 5-10 years ago. I don't know if it's the evolution of the patterns or the bowling balls. I mean, lane surfaces have pretty much stayed consistent. You know, AMF synthetics, Brunswick synthetics. Not a lot of wood lanes left out there, unfortunately, which I hate because I loved bowling on wood lanes. Grew up on them as a lot of us of our generation did. But really what's changed have been the patterns of the bowling balls, and we see more of those high flush 7s than ever before. So where that hit used to be a bad break, a terrible break, now it looks the same, but you just see more of them, and you have to accept it and go, okay, it's like leaving a wrap 10. Okay, it happened. Maybe trying to adjust it out, but don't overthink it.
Yeah, definitely wouldn't overthink the move for a hit like that. You know, similar to, you know, almost leaving a 9-pin line, just maybe the slightest scooch in.
Yep.
But you definitely don't want to set the ball too far off course. I'm trying to worry about covering all of that back row there. Ross came into this game at plus 65. Just having another nice little game here. Staying steady, staying clean. Going to be up on 22, far right of your screen in a moment. You can just kind of see his arm poking through there on the right side of your screen. There he is. So playing him pretty direct. May didn't want this particular shot, leaving the 4-7-10 as they're trying to get something set up on 23. Oh.
I don't remember the software developer of the arcade game, but there was a bowling game back in the day that was in every bowling center I went to, and whenever you left something like that, they called it Grandma's Teeth.
I've heard that one before, yes.
That was a 3-4. We're going to try and set it back up on 23, the 3-4-7-10. Oof.
It is there.
With 2 other pins on the deck. Oh.
No.
I bet I can tell you exactly what happened, because not just a minute ago, that was the 2-4-7-10. So I bet the rack got messed up and they called back a 3-6-7-10, and because it's a mirror image when you're standing behind the pins, they put it up on the wrong side. That being set up for William Keenan Jr. I can tell you, probably the only thing more frustrating than leaving a split is having to wait for them to reset or re-rack a split, because then it's just more time for you to stand there and fester in your own anger.
Think about what you did.
Yes. You bad bowler.
Let's see. Bill picked up a split in the 5th frame, though, so after all this talk about it, we got to watch the attempt. Just the 2 for Bill, so he'll have to reset in frame 7 over there on 23 and 24. After the high flush 7, Louis definitely saw that ball hook A little bit more on 21. Use the 6-pin. We're still wrapping up game 4 on 21 and 22. Looks like we'll be ready to start game 5 on 19 and 20. So Shane O'Neill and Steve Kiss will be stepping up momentarily. There's Shane already. Looks like Steve is plus 46 right now. John Perry and TD. We'll find out who TD is soon because he's plus 109. If only we had a tool to
Ty
check
Dawson.
out this. Oh,
Ty Dawson.
my man. Ty can chuck the rock, so he's gonna. I've seen him strike once or twice out here. A great place to find these lane pairings and more. Live scoring, results, oil pattern, roster, and everything else you need to know about the Super Senior Classic. Be sure to visit bowl.com/supersenior. Or if you're in the chat right now, you see the panels. If you click on the middle one up at the top, it looks like a few pieces of paper strategically placed to look like they're creating more depth. That'll bring you to our tournament information page. You can click on that. That'll open up a new window for you. We'll take you right there for all of that great information. There's Ty right there. All right, he's ready to go. It seems, at least in our immediate surroundings, we're kind of at that awkward point where some pairs are finishing up much quicker than others.
Yes.
It's gotten to that point of the day, of the round.
So Aaron, you've bowled your fair share of tournaments throughout your bowling career. If you're a bowler and you get done and you're waiting on a pair that's, say, 3 frames away from getting done, what do you do to fill that time?
There's certainly a variety of things I would consider doing. At this point of my bowling career, I would probably be very thankful for the rest. However, if I was stepping up to, say, 21 and 22 coming up here, and I'm already finished, I'm ready for game 5, I would really hope that there is someone on this pair who, I can find who has a similar game to mine, someone, similar rev rate, and hopefully they're throwing a few strikes. So essentially, as we talked about, kind of bridging that process to get lined up on a pair when you move to it, having the chance to see someone, hey, maybe I was playing, 13 on the last pair, but I see someone who's, similar rev rate, they're already into 16 on this pair. Maybe I'm trying to sneak down a little bit quicker, checking out what ball they're using, what type of surface, maybe even take a glance at the layout, think of, where I'm at, what I've been using, what's been good for me. Do I have particularly, maybe that ball in my arsenal? Was I thinking about making a change already? Or, is there something else going on in this pair? But I would attempt to just collect as much information as I could and really, really hope to stay loose in that time as well, now that I'm a much older gentleman than you are. But information, the name of the game, and so very helpful to bridge that gap. So that's what I would be looking for in that scenario. Or I would just throw the ball as great as Steve Kiss did in those first 2 shots of his and have an early double. But I'm not Steve Kiss, so
No, you're not.
this is true.
He's quite very much better. I'm not saying you're bad. I'm just saying he's that good.
No, I'm. But without even watching me, as most folks haven't, other than my yearly one shot at the Open Championships Facebook page.
I was going to say, if you want to, head over to the OC Facebook page and watch Aaron's one shot from this year.
It was such a
team event.
It was such a bad shot too, and
You hooked the entire lane.
I got away with that one this year. The thing that made me upset though was, and Matt eventually put it into thread, but it wasn't the same. Like, I told him if I threw a good one, I was going to do the Daryl carry-on like walkout. And I threw a good one, and I did a little step to the right, but I went right into his camera shot.
You did.
But such a good shot. And then I came back on the next frame, and it was like, definitely was not happy with it. And I walked away from it because off my hand I thought I 210'd. So that goes to show you, when you don't think you can hook the ball, sometimes you can hook the ball.
The ball was heading in the 210 direction.
It was. So I was disappointed, and I knew Matt was going to have to stay down there for another shot for the next frame. I'm like, I need to throw another good shot. This is going to take forever. And then somehow everyone's like, oh, if they all fell. I'm like, jeez. And then Matt had that grin that Matt gets. And you're like, jeez, this is going to happen now.
He's going to use that shot, isn't he?
He's going to use that one. Now here I am walking it off. Like, it's so bad. But in my book, you broke a cardinal rule of turning your back on the pins. Never turn your back on the pins. This is true.
Although Ty Dawson may have wanted to turn his back on that 10-pin attempt as it went in the gutter at about 40 feet. Sometimes that happens.
But the culmination of that whole tirade we just went on is that Steve Kiss throws it way better than me.
To sum it up,
to get back to
the
square
sum
one
of all those parts.
I had forgotten about that moment for a while too, and you just made me relive it. I had gotten past it. I haven't picked up a bowling ball since then. I lied. I subbed in league the following Wednesday after that, but that was the last two times I bowled. So.
You thought I came over here to make your job easier. All I did was come over here to put you through the ringer.
That's good though. Keeps me honest in my endeavors.
I got to keep you on your toes, man.
All right, officially into Game 5 here on our featured pairs now. We'll wait for our next group of competitors on 21 and 22. As John, Shane, Steve, and Ty move into frame 3 over on 19 and 20. Once again, bowling also going on our other channels, lanes 15 through 18 and 23 through 26. We will have 12 lanes of coverage throughout the course of competition here at the Super Senior Classic as well as the Senior Masters, assuming everything continues to work right. A little bit too much fun this morning at between the hour of about 8 a.m. and 8:40 with one particular camera on that's broadcasting lanes 23 through 26. So hopefully not that much excitement the rest of the way out, but you never know.
A little inside baseball. There were a few, I wouldn't say panicked phone calls, but definitely some, hey, what's going on, buddy? Hey, what? Got an idea?
I had to call out to the expert. Had to bring in the closer, Emil Williams Jr. Luckily, I knew this is one of the few times when we're away at tournaments where we're on the same time zone.
Same time zone, yeah.
So I knew he would be up because I know today's setup day for the PWBA Sonoma County Open in Rohnert Park, California. Double-decker lanes. That competition is going to be kicking off tomorrow right here on BowlTV.com. So knew they were planning to be setting up this morning. So I knew I wasn't giving him the old, 5:30, 6:30 call in the morning that you never want to do.
Never want one of those.
Don't want to be that guy. Sometimes you got to be though. But But luckily we talked through a few things. Turned out to be one pesky cord. Didn't like a particular camera, so. But now here we are in the good place. Game 5 of 6. It's still running. How about that?
An unofficial update after game 4. I'm still waiting on one score from Jim Lessick, but he was going to be, I think he could have maxed out at 178, so the best he could be after 4, if I remember correctly, he was at plus 77, so the best he could have been would be plus 55. But unofficially, as I'm scrolling through the scores, still waiting on one pair to update into the standings, or to update to game 5, so they can give us an updated standings. But from what I'm seeing, you've got Ron Moore at plus 151, Robert Scott at 122, Ty Dawson at 109, Michael Warren at 108, and Paul Mullins at 99. And then the rest of your top 10, John Babbitt at 98, Alan Sabin 91, Milka Vargas 80, Roy Yamanua at 78, and Dennis Powell also at plus 78.
Looks like we are waiting on something on 21 and 22 for Michael and Kelly to continue on here in game 5.
Same with 33 and 34. They have not yet begun game 5.
So big shout out to our tournament staff assisting this week as John makes a nice run at the 210 there. Does not get it to connect though. Our tournament director, Greg Moore, taking care of business in the office right behind us. And then Chip and Robin Akey joining as well. I see Brian Hirsch as part of the Open Championships and Bowlers Journal staff this year joining in. So thank you to those folks for swinging on by. To you as well, Daniel. Glad we got to get you on Bowl TV here for a little bit, for a few days.
Yeah, this is not just working with Bowl TV, but to come over and work an event, a short format event like this. I've run tournaments before I was a manager of my local association for 3 years, so I ran city tournaments and various association tournaments, but never anything obviously long format like the Open Championship. So this is more of my, more what I'm used to, my forte, so to speak. So I really enjoy this because at the Open Championships, we've got to wait another 7 weeks before we crown any winners, and we're going to crown a winner here in 4 days.
There we
so
are. Yeah, certainly a different vibe, if you will. I don't know if vibe's the right word. I might think of another word later that I'd like to use, but
that's a good word. I like vibe.
But a different feel, a different flow, different. I don't know. I couldn't think of the word tablecloth yesterday when I was trying to explain what it was. So
Tablecloth.
Tablecloth. We have these very nice Samstown tablecloths on all the tables, and I was trying to explain something about how nice they were, and I couldn't think of the name of it.
Table banner? Could be a banner.
Yeah, I couldn't even come up with that. I just looked at it, and it was just this thing.
This thing, the thing right there. That.
This thing, this guy right here. Moments I'm not proud of, but I'm more than happy to tell here on Bull TV.
It's like we did have one, I think it was one pair, maybe one or two pairs that had some vacancies on there. Only 3 guys on the pair. We have had, I believe, 2 withdrawals so far, so that just adds 2 more pairs that only have 3, which is further going to create a gap between, we do have some pairs right now that are in frame 7 of their 5th game, and then some pairs like 23 and 24, 33 and 34 that are just starting frame 1. Depending on who's on my pair, if I'm on one of those pairs that's bowling faster, if it's guys that I know or that I'm familiar with, I may look at them and go, hey, you all want to slow the pace a little bit, that way we're not getting done, and the pair that we're moving to is only in their 4th frame. You don't want to sit around and wait 6 frames in a format like this before you get to go and throw another shot.
I think that's a very fair point, and throughout the course of 6 games, the ability to stay loose once you get there, you don't want to give that up.
No.
Especially if you're out there, you're making good shots, everything's feeling good, your timing's clicking, all of that's kind of playing into it. The icing of the kicker, if you will, as all of us Bears fans know, is a real thing and terrible thing. I just got to look. I don't know what type of. It looks like a disappointing look of some sort.
I'm glad I only heard the back half of that.
No, we're stopping right now. You need to tell me.
I thought I heard Spurs.
Spurs.
Is that what you not said?
I did not say Spurs.
That's what I thought you said.
I said Bears.
Oh. No, that's not going to affect me.
Okay.
No, definitely not a Bears fan.
All right, that's fine.
Vikings fan.
Vikings fan. Okay. Which is fine because you didn't say Green Bay. So.
I was looking up something on how to do something in Excel, and I thought I heard Spurs. I'm a San Antonio Spurs fan. That's why.
Oh, okay.
So,
all right.
But if I heard Bears and kicker, that was probably a Cody Parkey joke.
It was getting at that, yes.
One of my best friends back home is a Bears fan, so I can fully appreciate where that joke was going.
Yes, it was. In speaking of the potential of having to wait around, and mention how icing the kicker is a real thing in bowling as well as
Absolutely.
in other sports, and a well-used timeout can make someone like Mr. Parkey, potentially doink a field goal off of a goalpost and ruin your hopes and dreams of another week of football. But I digress.
And it's funny you say that because just a few days ago, my parents are in Gatlinburg, Tennessee right now. It's one of their favorite vacation spots. They're there for a week. My dad sends me a picture of a bear walking across the street. He's a Packers fan. He captions this picture of a bear walking across the street and says, "Cody Parkey still looking for work?" ?
Ouch.
Yeah.
Well played.
But I can't criticize too much because my Vikings have had their fair share of stressful kickers in the last 10 years.
It certainly does add on to the already mounting pressure of just watching football in general.
And we do have some official standings after Game 4 as the scroll in front of us is getting towards the bottom of the standings. We can give that to you in just a few moments. Ron Moore plus 151, Robert Scott 122, Ty Dawson 109, Michael Warren and Paul Meelan's tied at 4th at 99, John Babbitt 6th at 98, Alan Sabin 91, Weedmar Vargas 80, and then Dennis Powell and Roy Yamanua at plus 78, tied for 10th. Or tied for 9th, excuse me.
Let's take a look at that 25th place. Looks like Clark Polzer and Mike Matisich, plus 28. So that's a 2:07 pace through 4. This Ty delivers a nice shot there in the 7th. Looking for a strong back half. Game 5. Speaking of Ron Moore, off to another strong start here in Game 5. So let's bounce back after slowing down a little bit in the middle part of our block. Started with the front 4 before a split conversion in frame number 5. So Ron over on lane 41 and 42 at the moment. So again, you can find live scoring and more by visiting bowl.com/supersenior. You can also find it here on bowltv.com. If you're in the chat, be sure to check out the panels to the right. The middle one at the moment, you can see tournament information. You can go ahead and click on that, and that will lead you to the same page that we are speaking of at the moment. It's a helpful way for us to kind of keep track of everyone as we go through the block. We can know things like Ron Winger having the front 5 over on lane 47 and 48. Garrett Reynolds takes care of the baby split in frame number 6. Steve Kiss having a pretty nice game here. Still playing him fairly direct. Right up the second arrow. Going a little bit away from the pocket, but for the most part, fairly direct up the board still. So as we can see, players being able to find their way to the pocket from a few different angles out here. Shane O'Neill delivers a great shot on 19. Once again, B Squad will be on the lanes at approximately 5 p.m. Eastern, so that's going to be 2 local time, so a little more than 2 hours from now. So based off our current pace, I would think we'd be done within the next hour, so should be about an hour break or so before we get ready for B Squad. Once again, they'll be on the burn, so no re-oil. All right, looks like Ron's string of strikes ends in frame number 7, so still looking
Flat 10.
flat 10.
Yep, I was down there watching.
Ron, of course, for those who visit the South Point Bowling Plaza, especially those who do it on a daily basis like I have in the past and you do nowadays, see Ron every day working there. So Ron, definitely a great guy, of course. Pretty solid bowler in his own right as well. So always cool to see Ron out here. Well, glad Mike Moniak let him get away for a few days to compete out here. So appreciate it, Mr. Moniak.
One bowler who's going to take a look back at this Game 5 and wonder what could have been is Jay Young. We mentioned him. He was hovering around the top 10 earlier. He goes 9 spare, 6 in a row. Gets up in the 8th, misses a single pin, and then gets up in the 9th and leaves the what I call the super bucket, the 2, 4, 5, 8 with the 7 pin.
Ooh.
Chops 4 of those off. So he just doubled the 10th to shoot. He can strike the fill for 236 with missed makeable spares in the 8th and 9th. So he's going to wonder what could have been as he looks back on this 230 plus game.
Now, as a gentleman from Kentucky, I want to see your take on this because Super Bucket is one I have not heard before on this leave. And as someone with a lower rev rate, this is something I leave quite a bit. So in my circles growing up, we called it bucket with a biscuit.
Bucket with a biscuit.
Bucket with a biscuit. So a man who is familiar with the your state's namesake of fried chicken, KFC. How do you feel about this?
I like that, but I will tell you that people from the Kentucky area who are connoisseurs of fried chicken, no matter your race, no matter your sex, no matter your age, anyone who considers themselves a fried chicken specialist will tell you that KFC is not where you go to get fried chicken in Kentucky. I like KFC. It's good.
I enjoy it as well.
But as with a lot of cuisines out there, the best you're going to get from a certain cuisine is not going to be at a chain. There are hole-in-the-wall places. There's a place in Louisville. It's only in Louisville. So I have no problem saying them on air because they're not going to be anywhere but Louisville. It's a place called Indy's.
Indy's.
I-N-D-I.
Okay.
Their buildings, the awning around their buildings is the striped colors like the old, what was the chewing gum that we had as kids that lasted like 3 chews? Multicolor striped package, rainbow or...
oh, I know what you're talking about.
I'm going to look
too,
it up.
because they were so good, and then the flavor just fell out just like that. I feel it began with an S.
It's going to drive me nuts. Maybe those of you in the live chat can offer up some There it is, fruit stripe.
Oh.
That's what it was.
Yes, that was so good.
Yes. Yeah, their awning is just multicolored, red, yellow, green, and blue. Great chicken.
So
that's where you go for fried chicken.
So in August, we're going to do this now.
Oh, yeah, we can go.
In August, this is going to happen. So
now, I will say, the Indy's locations in Louisville are not in the nicest of areas, but you'll have a local with you, so I can escort you to and fro.
All right. It sounds good. We'll be ready for this. See, the folks who are watching the Louisville.
Whoa.
Louisville. See?
He said he was going to do it.
I said it's just going to naturally happen. I don't mean to, but it's going to happen. But people who are watching in August, you're going to have to ask us about this. You're going to have to bring it up in the chat and say, did you go to Indy's? Was it everything Daniel Farish said and more? But the real question is, can I get a bucket with a biscuit there?
Absolutely, you can get a bucket with a biscuit.
Okay, all right, then it's in play.
The biscuits are fire, by the way.
Hashtag fire.
Hashtag fire biscuits.
Fire emoji. Fire biscuits. Nice 248 for Steve Kiss to lead the way. He's going to get to plus 94 over on 19 and 20. To head into the final game right now, Kelly Van Hees putting up some strikes over on 21 and 22. Working on a 5 in a row. So get to 259 this game. There's another one.
Came into this game minus 113 after the first 4, so needing a couple of big games here in Game 5 and Game 6 for Van Hees to try and make tomorrow relevant. Maybe not so much about making it, well, I guess if you make the cut, you are in the cashing. So, yeah, I was going to say maybe not so much making the cut, but cashing, but then it hit me that the casher's cut is the cut. So So a couple big games here to put himself in a good position tomorrow to try and sneak inside that top 50.
And for Kelly, as he gets the double, it's going to be in the 250s. You know, definitely some positives to look on. Obviously, he's got one more game to go. He can add on to this. He can get himself right back to plus with another 250 game just like that. But, you know, if he's a player who likes to burn a little bit more, he's going to be falling right into this look potentially tomorrow. And have 6 games to basically
make up some ground,
run him down. So nice 256 to get to minus 57.
John Babbitt, who was sitting in 6th coming into this game, is trying to make the most of a struggle with opens in the 4th, 5th, and 8th. Started the game on a double, but has went downhill from there. Has the first strike in the 10th. He's trying to double the 10th to get into the 180s and minimize the damage, so to speak. Robert Scott shoots 198 to drop to plus 120. And Babbitt did not double the 10th, so if he converts this spare, he'll shoot 172 and lose 28 pins from that plus 98, so he's looking to go plus 70 after game 5. Roy Yamanua fired off a nice 227 in game 5. He gets a plus 105 heading into the final game of this block. Michael Hastings is at 108. He was plus 62, so he had a nice 246 the last game.
Looks like we're ready for game number 6 here on our featured pairs. Lanes 19 through 22, excuse me, not 21 through 24. That'd be very difficult with the pillar that is in between those pairs to live stream that. So 19 through 22, but as we prepare for this, and it looks like some of the other pairs are moving into game 6 as well. Let's put it up to the folks watching right now to see which nickname they preferred for the 2, 4, 5, 7, 8. Super Bucket or Bucket and a Biscuit? It's just going to stay up there till you guys select, so please do. It's all in fun.
Speaking of nicknames, one of our competitors he was on the high end of the house this game. David Chu has a bowling jersey. You see a lot of old school polos out here with actual not you know the screen printing of the jerseys, but the actual stitching of the last names on the back. Old school throwback there with the polos, but David Chu has a a jersey on, and I think you can see where I'm going with this. On the back of his shirt, instead of just the last name, C-H-E-W, or David Chew, it says Chew, A-A-A-H-H, Chew. I chuckled a little bit at that.
I did catch that earlier, and that is fantastic. And
Oh,
Super Bucket with the win.
wow.
Man, opening day, the Rook taking it down.
And that's not even like a Kentucky thing. That's just what I've called it for years. I don't know why or when I started doing that, but.
So from now on.
But gosh darn it, now I want some chicken and a biscuit.
That's what we're here for.
Well, the next squad doesn't start until, what, 2 o'clock?
2 o'clock, so.
And they're starting game 6. For the most part, guys are starting game 6 now. Oh, we'll have plenty of time to get some food. Oh, yeah.
There we go. A quick chat with our leader through A squad. Chat with them about what they saw out here on the Fresh in preparation for our upcoming squad, B squad, if you will. You can check out the lane pairings and more, bowl.com/super senior for more information. So it appears everyone's here on 19 and 20. They just haven't started up yet. Looks like they're potentially looking to verify something before kicking off game 6. Wasting no time on 21 and 22, though. Michael Hastings has been near the top of the standings for most of the day. He's going to be stepping up on 22. There's Wayne Clark delivering the strike in the 3rd frame. Ed Silva and Chris Patton on 21 and 22. So here's Mike Hastings. You can see him far right of your screen. Still keeping it fairly direct and on point.
Hastings showing that there's 2 ways you can deal with transition. You can either, ball down and move in and start to parallel in and change your angle of attack, or you can try and stay in that same area and just pick up the ball speed a little bit.
Which way would you prefer?
I'm not someone who's ever tinkered too much with changing ball speed over the years, so I would follow the common line of thinking and just start moving in, make parallel moves, or 4 and 2, whatever the lane called for, but make moves left. I know there are guys that would prefer to mess with ball speed before they start making moves in, but I'll always prefer just jump in, ball down, make adjustments that way.
Yeah, definitely for the folks who can really master that, that's definitely a valuable tool to have. A lot of moving parts go into doing that consistently throughout the course, and a great way for folks to really kind of get some insight to that and how players are able to do that. Would definitely recommend checking out the Vault channel here on bowltv.com. Get some great insight from 3 of the top coaches in the business, all gold coaches: Rod Ross, Lou Marquez, and Stephen Padilla, having segments on there talking about different aspects of the game, but throughout the course of that coaching program, if you will, as it continues to develop. Definitely going to see some discussion on ball speed, the best ways to do that. So many folks think, I want to throw the ball faster, I want to increase my ball speed, so I'm just going to physically do that. I'm just going to throw it harder, which is going to get you in trouble more often than it's going to help you out.
Well, and if you increase your ball speed, that's all good and fine. But if you don't also increase your rev rate when you increase your ball speed, then not only are you changing how the ball reads the lane because you amped up the ball speed, but you have less revs on the ball, which is also going to change how the ball reads the lane. So you're not really making one adjustment there, you're making 2 when you don't realize it. And that's part of, like you said, the touch and feel that goes into changing ball speeds, is you've got to match up that rev rate as well.
First miscue there from Hastings, and able to convert the 10-pin. Looks like we potentially have a dropout here on 19 and 20, so be the reason for our early delay. Or we had Chip a key down here a little bit earlier, working with the participants on 19 and 20. So let's see if they start up once again shortly here. Richard Vanderberg is up on the scoreboard on lane 20. A pairing we've talked about quite a few times is on 17 and 18 right now, featuring 3 of our left-handed competitors, and pretty good ones at that. Hall of Famer Johnny Petraglia, the defending Super Senior Classic champion Mike Diaz, and Ron Boroff, all over on 17 and 18 right now. Those wanted to see some of the top southpaws out there.
Petraglia, the highest of those 3 lefties on that pair coming into this game at plus 28. Mike Diaz right behind him at 23. And then Boroff is minus for his set as they head into game 6.
It'll be interesting for those guys tomorrow, after obviously they will not be on the fresh again, but seeing that they'll be paired together once again and having that transition continue to keep up on the left side. Kind of see where those guys end up in the standings, if they're able to work together as a team and really kind of continue to work off each other and kind of all make their way to the next round, or if we see one style kind of more predominant than the other.
Taking a look at some unofficial numbers after game 5. I missed what Ty Dawson shot. Ironically, it was right in front of us. I was running some scores down the rest of the house. I missed what he shot that game. Still waiting on his next pair to load up, so I don't have that number in front of me. But I feel pretty confident in saying that we'll be speaking with Ron Moore after this game. He is plus 198 after shooting 247 the last game. Next up is Robert Scott at 120, Pete McCordick at 115, Alan Sabin at 114, Hastings at 108, Yamanua at 105. Junichi Ajima, the 2016 champion, is at 99. Milka Vargas at 96. Michael Warren at 94. And I believe that should round out our top 10. Only give you 9 bowlers because Ty Dawson was at plus 109 going into game 5, and I missed what he shot. So assuming he was even that game, he'll be up in that top 10 number.
You know, for Ty that game, at least to start, he was not going too crazy. Having a few back and forth with strikes and spares, so stringing him really wasn't too, unfortunately, too prevalent for him in the early going of that game. So
it has come up. He shot 160 last game. He went from 109 to 69. So pretty big drop there as he hit 19 and 20 in the 5th game.
Ron Moore's going to be finishing up on lanes 53 and 54, so he's at the very last pair in play on the high end. For those keeping track of our tournament leader here through the first 5 games. There has never been a 2-time winner at the Super Senior Classic throughout its short but great history so far. Had several players come close to multiple titles or return to a title match. Kerry Painter was right in the mix in 2014 after winning the inaugural event in 2013. Junichi Yajima was actually in the title match in 2017 against Ron Moore, so it was essentially the title match was the same in 16 and 17.
I was going to say, because Ron was 2nd in 2016.
Yep, so came down to those 2 gentlemen again. Johnny Petraglia finished 3rd in both of those events too, so it was very, very similar to the top 4 in both of those years. So we have yet to see someone win this event twice, but Ron leading the way here, going to put himself in great position. Last year he ended up making it to the group stepladder final, did not make it all the way through for another trip to the stepladders here and put himself in that position once again. But so far so good for the gentleman from North Las Vegas, Nevada.
All three of our last 3 champions are plus this set. Of course, we talked about Ron Moore a lot today. Yajima just bumped his way into the top 10 at plus 99 after game 5. And Mike Diaz struggling a little bit, but he's still sitting plus at plus 23 coming into this game. And he's clean through the first 4 frames. So all 3 of them are putting themselves in a good position heading into tomorrow. Our first look today on one of our featured pairs of Roy Yamanua, who's currently sitting in 6th place. Again, he's attacking the lanes kind of the way that Aaron and I were talking about with Hastings, is trying to stay a little further right, picking up that ball speed as Yamanua trips a 4-pin there in the 3rd frame. Of course, he's plus 105 coming into this game. Shot 227 the last game to make a slight jump up into just outside the top 5. As I was walking up and down the house looking to see where the players are transitioning to, a lot of the right-handers, like we talked about, starting to bump in, trying to find a little bit of hold on that inside middle part of the lane. And some of the lefties have actually been moving left, moving further out towards the gutter. They're not going to see this so much on the fresh, but some of the left-handers later on the burn this afternoon, as they start to migrate towards the inside part of their lane, they're going to start crossing paths in the heads area of the lane. They're going to start crossing the ball paths of the right-handers who are moving in as well. So that may be a reason why you see some of these lefties start to move left as the lane goes away instead of moving right. Because the further right they move, the quicker they're not only going to encounter transition on their side of the lane in the track area, but they're also going to run into issues with crossing where the right-handers are starting to move in. Mark, your question on Joe Salvamini on his 9 in the 3rd frame. I'll try and get some clarification. I do know that he was absent for the first 2 frames. I'm not sure why. I don't know if Aaron knows. I can ask him, and if not, I can get some clarification. But I do know that they're waiting a little bit on Joe to start this 6th game. So I know that if you show up late to a tournament, you get zeros for the frames you missed. That rule, I guess, extends forward to any game inside the block. So Joe was absent for the first 2 frames, held the pair up a little bit for reasons I'm not sure of. We'll try and get clarification on that. So he has to take zeros for those 2 frames.
I went out. Oh. Mr. Farish. Okay, there we go. All right, I was a little scared there when I turned
Audio
that on.
check.
Audio check. All right, there we go. I did go ask our tournament officials about this situation because it is a little random, and unfortunately it's kind of an embarrassing story. Joe thought it was only a 5-game block.
Oh no!
And from what I was told, he missed a single pin to end Game 5, and thought he was done, and was just kind of a little frustrated, and so he signed his score sheet and headed on out. So he actually had someone give him a call. He had made his way to the parking lot. So that's where everyone else was kind of wondering where he ran off to. So that is the situation.
And what's going to make that even worse is the fact that you do the math. He has 1,004 right now, minus the 18 this game. That puts him at 986 after 5. He was only minus 14.
But Joe's a very good player. We've seen him make some runs at the Senior Masters. So that could be part of the confusion too, because Senior Masters is a 5-game qualifying block, not the 6 like we have here at the Super Senior Classic. So potentially was just thinking how rough way to end the day, and then he's ready to shake it off and move on to the next one.
And of course, that frustration of missing the single pin and leaving, unbeknownst to him, leaving early and then getting the call back, that frustration is carried over. As I'm sure, not just the frustration of the moment, but the fact that you've got to try and get your mind wrapped around, okay, I've got one more game left to bowl. You got to get the shoes put back on. I don't know if he uses any kind of I don't see any kind of athletic tape or any kind of preparation on his hand, so he didn't have to worry about that. But he's chopped a spare in the third, split the fourth, has a difficult multi-pin leave here in the fifth. So
it's one of those things.
Yeah.
Someday it's going to be a great story to tell, but for right now, it's one of those things you just got to shake off, and no different than hitting a bad pair and just running into some trouble.
It looks like we do have some official numbers after Game 5 on our scrolling scoring in front of us. I'm going to pull up on the website, see if the website's updated before the scroll gets to the top. It has not yet been updated, so once the scroll in front of us gets up to the top of the standings, we will give you the official top 10 after Game 5. Again, there are a few pairs right now that are wrapping up their 6th game, and a few pairs that are early on in their 6th game in the 3rd frame. As I look down over on lane 23, Harold Mullins had the front 3 and guttered in the 4th. And then strikes on the spare attempt. Well, spares on the spare attempt, I guess. All right, your top 10. Ron Moore, 198. Robert Scott, 120. Pete McCordick, 115. Michael Hastings, 108. Roy Yamanua, 105. Alan Sabin, 104. Junichi Yajima, 99. Weedmar Vargas, 96. Steve Kiss, 94. And in 10th place, Paul Melans at plus 91.
So that's a 218 change scoring pace right now to make the top 10. A few of those players on our featured pair right now, Michael and Roy. Both throwing a few strikes here on Bull TV.
And the cut number right now, ish, is a 208.4 average, right around plus 42.
So Skip Pavone. All right, good for Skip there. He caught some tough breaks on 21 and 22 earlier in the block, so glad to see him bouncing back after that.
Defending champion Mike Diaz at plus 23. He is in 36th position. As we actually see him a pair to our left on 17 and 18.
Yeah, Mike's got a double this game, looking to stay clean through 7. Talked about gold coaches. Mike Diaz, also a USBC gold coach.
I think he tried to chop that 3-5, but both pins went down.
There's some interesting history with Mr. Diaz as far as his gold coaching resume is concerned. I was actually one of his students during one of the processes of for the gold level part of the testing. Is you have to actually work with students of different caliber, basically different caliber players throughout the course of it, and that they have a certain task. I'm not going to go too deep into details within an hour with the student, and so I actually got paired up with Mike for that for one of the years. And additionally, after he became a gold coach, when we were still involved with the USBC Bowling Academy, now just the Bowling Academy, we actually went out to Colorado. He lives out in the just outside of Denver in Lafayette, and actually went out there for probably about a 6 or 7 video shoot segment with Mike. So that was pretty interesting few days over there. So definitely got to learn a lot. That was a pretty fun shoot to be on. So once again, I'm hoping the vault, or not the vault, excuse me, the lab on Bowl TV is going to be offering a lot of cool stuff just like that as well. Getting to work with some of the top coaches out there. I really wanted one of our segments to be called GoldenEye, based off of the fantastic Nintendo 64 video game. But we haven't got there yet. But
Probably one of the top 5 N64 video games of all time. Countless hours spent multiplayer on that game.
It was really the best for any type of great way to kill an entire Saturday with your friends.
Yeah, between GoldenEye 64 and Super Smash Brothers, I can't tell you how many hours my cousin Alex and I logged playing those games when we spent the night at each other's houses, or for a birthday party, because you could play, 4-person multiplayer on both games. That was the day. Those are the days.
The good times. N64 was kind of my peak video game system era. So true story, back at the headquarters in Arlington, Texas, we do have Jason Thomas brought in his original PlayStation along with Brunswick Circuit Pro Bowling.
Oh, man.
So it's been a while. That was like a Friday thing for a while. Like after we finished up the day, kind of we'd all get together and basically, pick a random pro and kind of see you could figure out which, they had name patterns back then too.
Right.
But just trying to figure out, okay, let's see what this guy can do. Because back in the day when I had the Nintendo 64 version, that was, that was another game when play it for a while, good times. I don't have the touch anymore. However, I do have a video on my phone though, which I will show you during the break. I elected. I was having a bad game. I was getting frustrated at the end, and I elected just to take the hand out of it, very low rev, and just kind of just pipe it.
This is the video game or in real life?
In the video game.
Okay.
I can't pipe it in real life.
I was gonna ask.
And get frustrated. Like, okay, I'm shooting like 130. I've tried everything. So like, okay, I'm just gonna try to just very low rev rate. Just try to kill the ball reaction. Just try to keep it in the pocket. 5-7-10 on the frickin' video game. So again, I got a video of that, so I'll show that to you in between the break here. That's more for our amusement than the rest of Bowl TV land, unless you can figure out a way to post that gold. But I was very disappointed that I can not only do it in real life, but I can do it in video games as well.
I don't have a video, but I have done that on the I think it was the PS2 version of the Brunswick Pro Circuit Bowling. I do have a picture of a 5-7-10 that I left.
It looks like Pete McCordick's having a nice final game here, but I don't think it's going to be enough to hold off Ron Moore for the early lead. There's some going to go. Yeah, Pete can get to 259 this game.
Ron can double the 10th for 236.
So that's not going to be enough to make up the difference. So it looks like Ron Moore is going to be at a familiar spot here at the Super Senior Classic at the top of the leaderboard. So we're going to wrap up the first of 2 rounds today. B Squad will be on the lanes in approximately 80 minutes.
Roy Yamanua continues the high hard when the only non-carry in the pocket he's had this game was the 6th frame when Runaway Brooklyn left a 9-pin. I believe the 2nd frame, that 9 spare, I don't believe he hit the pocket either, but the other 6 shots have all been high flush, dead nut right in the pocket. Michael Hastings finishes out his 6th game with a 212 to finish at 120 for the day. And an even 220 average for 6 games. That'll put him in a good position moving into tomorrow.
Looks like we've got to keep an eye on Dennis Jones over on 35-36 right now, working on 6 in a row. He was minus heading into this game, so talk about a big boost to potentially end up his first round. Pete McCordick's going to finish in the 250s here. He's going to have a nice day, get to 170 over and change.
Yajima with a nice 224 the last game to get to a plus 123.
Strong finish for Warren Nelson, 256 to get to 134 over. Was in our step ladder finals last year here at the SSC. Yeah, but Ron Moore on pace to eclipse the plus 200 mark for the day. So once again, B Squad coming up 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 local time here in Las Vegas. We'll be bowling on the burn of this 40-foot condition in play this week at the Super Senior Classic. So our Kegel Lane machines will be taking the rest of the day off. We'll be back in the morning. Harry Sullins has continued to strike after that
Gutter spare.
gutter spare in the 4th frame. Now has 7 out of 8.
Robert Scott, who was in 2nd place at 120 coming into this game, has a split in the 2nd frame and has no strikes. The rest spares, most of them 9 counts. And if he strikes in the fill ball, he'll shoot 175. Looks like he got a 9 count for a 174. That's going to drop him to from 120 down to a plus 94.
But still finds himself in pretty nice position, though, heading into this final game. Looks like the final total for Ron Moore, 1434.
Plus 234 on the day.
With 9 strikes in the finale. So it looks like we'll be making sure we catch up with Mr. Moore before he heads out. Back home on a short drive to North Las Vegas. Based off of what I've heard from other folks, it's still like a 20-25 minute drive I want to say so. It's not. It's a big enough gap to where it's sizable, depending on traffic, of course.
Looks like North Las Vegas is a couple miles north of where 515 intersects 15. Owens Avenue looks to be the dividing line between North Las Vegas and then Las Vegas.
Gotcha. There we go. Learn something new every day.
Alan Sabin finishes with a 233 to get to plus 147. Right now, Clubhouse second place position. I missed what Pete McCordick's final score was.
Pete was in the 250s.
Yeah, he was at 115 coming in, so that should put him up in the 60s or even 170s.
All right, as we have our final few shots here. Looks like we're still going to have a little bit of bowling left on 23 through 26, so those channels are going to stay active for the time being, but got one more shot from Richard here before we conclude today's, or conclude this particular block.
This squad, yeah.
This squad. So again, we'll have about an hour 15 break. We'll run down Ron Moore, grab something to eat. I haven't eaten food yet today. I should probably do that.
Makes two of us. Having never been to Sam's Town, I'll have to venture upstairs and
There's a good variety up
see
here.
what they have up
so
there.
There's for a quick meal, it's pretty sizable. There's a lot of quick stops for you. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and make that transition to break time for us. But we certainly hope to see all you good folks once again. Wow, I said once again twice.
You did.
At 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 local time, an hour 15 from now, here on BowlTV.com. Bowling lives here for continued coverage of the Super Senior Classic. A squad just about wrapping up. B squad on the lanes next for the burn, 5 p.m. Eastern. So for Daniel Farish, I'm Aaron Smith. We'll see you soon right here on Bowl TV from Sam's Town.